Wyndham Clark just did something on a Sunday afternoon in Texas that almost no one in the history of golf has ever done, and the way he did it sent a message to every player on tour that they did not want to hear. A year ago, his career felt like it was falling apart. Now everything has changed. Here's the full story. To understand why this matters so much, you have to remember where Wyndham Clark was 12 months ago, because it was about as low as a top golfer can fall. The 2025 season was a disaster for him from start to finish. One top 10 finish in 19 starts. A best major result of a tie for 46th at the Masters. And then came June, the US Open at Oakmont, the place that broke him. Clark missed the cut at Oakmont by a single stroke, climbing to 8 over at the halfway point and bogeying 2 of his final 3 holes to go home early. And in a moment of pure frustration in the locker room, he damaged a century-old locker at one of the most storied clubs in the entire sport. The fallout was severe. Oakmont Country Club, after multiple discussions with the USGA, banned him from the property entirely. The club president sent a letter to members saying Clark would no longer be permitted on the grounds. To be reinstated, he would have to pay for the damages, make a meaningful charitable contribution chosen by the board, and complete counseling or anger management therapy. It was not even his first outburst that year. At the 2025 PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, he had thrown a club hard enough to damage a tee marker. The man who had won the US Open in 2023 now looked like a player coming apart at the seams, drowning in his own expectations and rage. He apologized repeatedly. He called it a mistake in a moment of rage. He said it was a wake-up call. But the question hanging over him was simple. Was Wyndham Clark, the major champion, gone for good? Because here is the thing people had started to forget. Clark is a genuine, certified major champion. In 2023, in just his 7th start in a major championship, he won the US Open at Los Angeles Country Club. He held off Rory McIlroy by a single stroke, closing with an even par 70, while McIlroy, chasing his decade-long major drought, could only watch as Clark made clutch par after clutch par down the stretch. He carried a message from his late mother that entire week. She always told him to play big. And on the biggest stage in American golf, he did exactly that. 6 weeks earlier, he had won his first PGA Tour title at the Wells Fargo Championship. For a 9-month stretch across 2023 and 2024, with 3 wins including a major, Wyndham Clark was one of the best and most exciting players on the planet, and his story made the rise even more compelling. Clark grew up in Denver, Colorado, learning the game at Cherry Hills Country Club, a course soaked in US Open history. He starred at Valor Christian High School before eventually finishing his college career at the University of Oregon. But the defining event of his life came off the course. His mother, Lise, battled breast cancer and died while he was still young, and her 2 words to him, "Play big," became the philosophy that carried him to the very top of the sport. Every time Clark has risen to a huge moment, that phrase has been right behind it. Which is part of why the Oakmont collapse cut so deep, because losing his composure in a fit of rage was the exact opposite of everything she had taught him about meeting the biggest stages with courage instead of fear. Then it all went quiet. After a weather-shortened win at the 2024 AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, where he had shot a course record 60 in the 3rd round, Clark did not win again. Not in the rest of 2024, not in all of 2025, 2 full years in the wilderness, ending in the rubble of that Oakmont locker room. So when he arrived at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson in late May of 2026, almost no one had him circled as a contender. And then Sunday happened. Quick pause. If you think Wyndham Clark is fully back and about to win another major this year, type "play big" in the comments, the same words his mom gave him. If you think the Oakmont meltdown still hangs over him, type "prove it." I read every single one. Here is what Clark actually did at TPC Craig Ranch outside Dallas. He started the final round, tied with the hometown favorite and world number 1, Scottie Scheffler. He was paired against a red-hot Si Woo Kim, who had shot a 60 of his own earlier in the week. And on the back 9, Clark produced one of the great closing stretches the tour has seen in years. He hit a 4-iron from 246 yards to 16 feet on the par 5 12th and made the eagle to take the lead for the first time. He 2-putted from 74 feet for birdie. He drained a 45-foot bomb at the 15th. He just kept landing punches. He finished the back 9 in 28. He closed with an 11 under 60. He got to 30 under par for the tournament, beating Si Woo Kim by 3 shots, with Scottie Scheffler himself 2 further back in 3rd, 60. A number that exists at the absolute outer edge of what is possible in professional golf, and Clark shot it on Sunday, with the lead on the line, against the best player in the world. And do not overlook exactly who he beat. Scottie Scheffler has spent years as the most dominant force in golf, the immovable world number one, and at the Byron Nelson he was playing in his home state of Texas, in front of a hometown crowd that desperately wanted him to win. Clark did not simply sneak past a soft field on a quiet afternoon. He stared down the best player on the planet on his own turf, and outscored him by 5 shots over those final 18 holes. Beating Scheffler head-to-head on a Sunday is something almost no one in the world manages to do, and Clark made it look very nearly routine. And here is the detail that turns this from a great win into a genuine statement. It is believed that no player in history has ever won 2 PGA Tour events with a closing round of 60. Clark has now done it twice, and he did it in back-to-back victories, because his Pebble Beach win in 2024 also featured a 60. That is not luck. That is not a hot week. That is a signature, the kind of thing only the most gifted players are even capable of. After it was over, Clark spoke about what the win meant, and this is the part that should worry the rest of the tour. He framed the victory directly against the Oakmont downfall. He talked about how the lowest moment of his career had become the wake-up call that put him back on track. He talked about turning the page, about how he was never really that far away from playing good golf, about how he lives a great life and the bad times had given him perspective. The rage that had defined his 2025 had been replaced by something far more dangerous to his competitors: clarity. This is the announcement, and it is bigger than any press release. Wyndham Clark is telling the golf world that the version of him that fell apart at Oakmont is gone, and the version that won a US Open is back, sharper and more grounded than before. He even fixed the part of his game that had betrayed him, switching to a new ping mallet putter at the Masters, and turning what had been one of the worst putting seasons of his career into the weapon that won him the Byron Nelson. And the timing could not be more loaded, because the US Open is just weeks away. The 2026 championship heads to Shinnecock Hills in Southampton, New York, from June 18th to the 21st. This is Clark's championship, the one he already owns, the one that made him a star. He carries a 10-year exemption from his 2023 win that keeps him in the field every year, and he is arriving at it in the best form he has shown in 2 years, riding a closing 60, having just beaten the world number one head-to-head. Think about the symmetry here. The US Open is the tournament that crowned him in 2023 and the tournament that broke him at Oakmont in 2025. Now, in 2026, he gets to walk back onto that exact stage as a man who has very publicly put himself back together. A second US Open title would not just be another trophy. It would be the complete redemption arc, the closing of the loop, proof that the meltdown was a chapter and not the ending. There are real questions still. Shinnecock is a brutal, windswept links-style test, nothing like the soft scoring conditions of TPC Craig Ranch where he shot 30 under. Clark's history at the US Open outside of his win is spotty, with missed cuts in his early appearances. And the mental side, the very thing that unraveled at Oakmont, will be tested harder at a major than anywhere else. A US Open is designed to find your breaking point. Clark already found his once, in the worst possible way. But that is exactly why this announcement matters, because for the first time since 2024, Wyndham Clark looks like a player who has answered the hardest question in golf. Not whether he has the talent, he proved that years ago. The question was whether he could handle himself when it all went wrong. The Oakmont ban, the counseling, the 2-year drought, the public apologies, and now a closing 60 to beat Scottie Scheffler. That is the story of a man who took the lowest moment of his career and used it as fuel. So when Wyndham Clark tees it up at Shinnecock Hills in June, do not think of the player who smashed a locker. Think of the player who shot 60 on Sunday with the world number one breathing down his neck and never blinked. He has told us, in the clearest way a golfer can, that he is back. And the rest of the field heard it loud and clear. If this one got you fired up, drop a like before you scroll away. It is the single biggest thing that tells the algorithm to push these stories to other golf fans who might never see them. And hit subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this one. There are more coming.